Well, good damn afternoon, Americans. Jericho Green here with you once again. You've heard the good news, and if you're a fan of this channel, you probably love that good news. The Supreme Court of the United States has done it again. Did you think they were done when they handled Roe v. Wade? I have a feeling they're just getting started. I have a feeling that these conservative judges that Trump put on the Supreme Court are going to do a lot of heavy lifting very soon and in very quick succession. Last June, they ended Roe v. Wade. A year later, they're ending affirmative action as far as college and university admissions. And it should be that way because I believe, like many things, at one time it was necessary. When this systemic racism that so many people in this country cry themselves asleep about, when it was a real thing, stuff like that, like affirmative action, I think was necessary to get qualified people into positions that they weren't being let into because of the color of their skin. But guess what? As a society, as a country, we've moved on, we've improved, and now things like affirmative action are no longer necessary. When you have a kid and they're a toddler, even from when they're a baby, you put them in a car seat. They get older, depending on what age they are, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, they grow out of it. You go from the car seat to the booster seat and they grow out of it. You're not going to have a 13 or 14-year-old all scrunched up with their knees up to here in a booster seat, are you? No, because they've outgrown it. They've changed. They don't need it anymore. There are other ways that they can maintain their own safety. And I think and something that surprised me after doing some research about this, a lot of states have already banned college and university entry type affirmative action for years. Some as far back as 1996. California, can you believe it? A socialist wet dream, California banned, I wouldn't say outlaw, but banned affirmative action when it came to college and university entry back in 1996. I think one state even went back to like 1993. But this again is on a federal level in all states. This is making sure that it doesn't happen in all 50 states. And anytime that you can remove the federal government from something, I believe 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be a good thing. Our federal government has become this big, uncontrollable, untrackable blob. I know we have a system of checks and balances, but when something gets so big, not even those checks and balances can keep it wrangled in, can keep it in order. So I think it's time, like it was time back then to have things like this, now it is time to get rid of them. Systemic racism is no longer an issue in this country. Are there racist people? Of course, there always will be. Are some of these racist people in high positions of authority and positions that affect your life? Yes, they will always be there. There's also some toothless sister fucking racists on a low level that has no effect over your life. They're everywhere all the time, and they always will be. Because these are humans. Okay, humans are fucking terrible. They're going to always do terrible things. You can't legislate perfection. You can't get rid of them all. But I think what this is going to do, if these universities are serious about it, and this came from white and Asian students basically bringing this to, or taking it all the way up the chain to the Supreme Court because they felt that affirmative action was taking away their opportunities. I think it was Harvard and another school that was was it UNC in North Carolina. The affirmative action had overcorrected. Now you're forcing people into these positions who don't qualify. Every person that gets into a college or university or because of affirmative action is not qualified to be there. And it should be based on your merit, period. If you're good enough to get in there, get in there. And this doesn't take race out completely. Universities can still consider race, your financial situation, where you grew up, your upbringing. They can take all of that into consideration and still allow you entry into their college, allow you to become a student. But having your race be something that you are this color, come on in, no, that's not right. That is not right, and it should no longer be that way. Maybe some of these colleges can go out into communities and recruit people. If you're really serious about this and you want the numbers of your students of color, your SOCs, to go up, then go look for them. If they're qualified to be there, help them be there, because the number one tool of bringing yourself out of poverty, whether it be personally or generationally, is education. That's why you see tons of Chinese students getting into our universities, tons of Asian students, Chinese, Indian, a lot of white students, because their cultures prioritize education. They prioritize school. I've told you about the Vietnamese girl that I went to school with who was crying. Her friends had to get around her and console her and convince her to get on the bus and go home because she got a B+. If I got a B+, if my class clown ass got a B+, I'm Robert Patrick T2 liquid metal. I'm running home. Speed tears coming out of my eyes. Backpack off, hat backwards. Mom! I got a B+. Total opposite. Not saying my parents didn't want me to get an education, but in other groups, education is king. So if students want to go there and they're qualified to be there, it doesn't always have to be an Ivy League. I know UNC and Harvard, well, I know Harvard for sure, and UNC, I don't think it's Ivy League. I could be wrong, but Harvard is for sure. It may not be Ivy League. How about this? Come here. How about a trade school? Huh? Yeah, trade school. You go to trade school in a lot less time for a lot less money, come out of it not in debt, start working sooner and make a shitload of money. Then, if you still haven't scratched that university itch, well, now you have some money to pay for yourself. You can always do that. But removing the federal government from things is great. I love it. Why don't you take some of the money from other places where you're fucking wasting money, like our defense budget? I've said that before. That's too damn big. Take it from other places in the federal government where you're fucking off with our money, like researching some endangered species. If it's endangered, let it go. Get that money somewhere else. I don't give a damn about no spotted owl. Trim the fat, put that money to some good. Help these universities and go out and recruit these geniuses of color. I'm all for everybody doing well. I'm all for more highly educated people being out in the world, working jobs and bringing themselves and their families out of poverty. Great. But the government is not always the answer. The government telling people you have to do this or you have to do that. And some people were saying, well, Clarence Thomas, who voted against it, Ketanji Brown Jackson didn't, and they had some words. But Clarence Thomas, who was a product of affirmative action, he got into Yale Law School back in '71 because they wanted to have at least 10% students of color at their university. But like I said before in the beginning, the time for that is gone. Society has changed. Those things that were in place to keep people like Clarence Thomas out of Ivy League universities are no longer there. We've vanquished those monsters. So since we've done that, come out of hiding and enjoy the fruits of the people's labor who killed the boogeyman for you. They took you out of the dark into the light, so go enjoy. But you know how it goes. I try to be done with the left, but they just won't let me. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell because every time it rings, a piece of shit lefty cries. Utilize the Linktree link. Get your ass over to JerichoGreen.net. I am Jericho Green. Man, I'm out.